What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel, and it's time to give you my updated top 25 rankings heading into Week 6 of the 2023 college football season. We are now officially heading into Week 6 of the college football season, and it was a really exciting weekend of college football in week number 5. Lots of upsets happened over the weekend, and there's going to be some changes here to my top 25 rankings compared to last weekend. We're now heading into Week 6. Usually this is where the time where, upsets happen in Week 5, Week 6, and then we get into Week number 7. And you're just starting to see these teams get a lot better as the season goes on. So we're going to give you my top 25 rankings. Again, this is not the official AP Top 25 poll. This is my top 25 rankings. I've been doing this every single week by week and changing them every single week by week as well. And they have changed throughout, the course of the weeks of the college football season. And like I said, I think we've learned more about these teams from last weekend compared to, the past, first 4 weeks of the college football season. Got another really good weekend of college football coming up this weekend. We'll talk about these games as we go into the top 25 here. So let's start from the bottom and work my way up to the top. We'll start from 21 through 25. I got Tulane here at number 25 and Fresno State at number 24. Two group of 5 teams here in the top 25 for me. Tulane, very slow start against UAB in their non-conference game. I tell you what, it was a back and forth game in that one, and Tulane able to come out on top with the victory in that one. That was a very tough game for Tulane, but they were able to survive that game. And the reason why I got Tulane here in the top 25 is because I'm giving them credit for that game against Ole Miss. They did lose that game, but it wasn't really a bad performance, especially when you had a backup quarterback in that game. Fresno State at number 24. This is the only undefeated group of 5 team in the top 25 here. Fresno State, I've been very impressed with them. They got 2 Power 5 wins. And, they had a big win in their game over the weekend. So Fresno State here. Again, the only undefeated group of 5 team. I think this is the top group of 5 team right now in college football this year. Texas A&M at number 23. It was a pretty tight spot here for the bottom. Texas A&M, they haven't really played anybody that tough. You had Miami there in the top, in the schedule and everything. They did lose that game. But, I was just very impressed with this Texas A&M team against Arkansas. A lot of people were kind of picking Arkansas to win that game because Connor Wigman went down with an injury. But Max Johnson, I think, gives them plenty of, hopes to, make a run for the SEC championship. They do play Alabama this weekend, so maybe they have a really good chance to pull off an upset there. But again, a very impressive performance. I've been very impressed with this Texas A&M team to start out the year of 2023. I think they're definitely going to make it to a bowl game after missing out last year. Louisville at number 22. I've been very impressed with them. Come back from behind victory against NC State this past Friday. They don't have like a top 25 win, but, I think they definitely deserve to be in the top 25 just because of this turnaround. This team, again, they had 7 wins last year, maybe 8 wins. Jeff Brom's got them off to a 5-0 start. I mean, how about this? Louisville looks like they're back to where they used to be, in their first year in the ACC, maybe second year in the ACC, where they're just back to where they used to be. And, this is kind of like the Charlie Strong era, where they had Teddy Bridgewater and, Lamar Jackson, also in Bobby Petrino era. But this is the Louisville team that we're talking about. I mean, this is the kind of Louisville team I like to see here in college football, undefeated and also ranked in my top 25. They're also ranked in the real AP poll, so that's the good news there for Louisville. And then Utah here at number 21. They had their first loss this past weekend. Very tough loss to Oregon State. Their offense still has some issues. Cam Rising not playing, I think, is really a big concern for this Utah team. You look at their schedule, it's really tough the rest of the way. They still got to play USC. They also still have to play Oregon on the schedule, which is going to be a very tough one there for Utah as well. I don't think they can make it to the Pac-12 championship, but if they get Cam Rising back maybe this weekend, they really have a chance to probably make it to the Pac-12 championship. But without Cam Rising in there, Utah's offense is just not really good enough. But their defense is good enough if they can get that offense going. Utah could be a very dangerous team. But these are my rankings from 21 through 25. So I made some changes here compared to last weekend. All right, let's go 16 through 20. Some changes here as well. I got Kentucky here at number 20. First time I'm ranking them in my top 25 this year. Kentucky, very impressive on the running game against Florida this past weekend. Ray Davis looks like one of the top running backs in the SEC after that performance from this past weekend. Kentucky, I think, has a really good chance to probably compete with Georgia this weekend, but I don't think it's going to be quite enough. I know Kentucky fans are kind of, saying that Kentucky will challenge Georgia, but it'll be very tough. I think they can challenge them, but it's going to be a very tough performance, especially when you're going on the road to face Georgia and Athens. So Kentucky here at number 20. Missouri at number 19. They're still undefeated at 5-0. I've been very impressed with this Missouri team. They had that top 25 win against Kansas State. So Missouri, again, they're coming off that win against Vanderbilt. It wasn't the best performance, but again, Missouri and Kentucky have been the most surprising teams, I believe, of college football. Maybe Missouri has been the more surprising team, probably more than Kentucky has, because I think Kentucky was going to make it to a bowl game anyway this year. Oregon State at number 18. I got to give them credit for that win against Utah, a top 10 win against a top 10 team. And I got to put them ahead of Missouri and Kentucky. I think, Oregon State has the best win out of Missouri and Kentucky. Kentucky has a win against Florida in the top 25. Missouri has a win against Kansas State. And then Oregon State's got a win now against Utah here. And I think Oregon State has the more better win between Missouri and Kentucky. I mean, Utah was a top 10 team, so that's the reason why they're here at number 18. Then Miami at number 17. They had a bye week, so not much to talk about them, but they're a challenger in the ACC spot. North Carolina also had a bye week. They're coming off that win against Pittsburgh this past weekend. I think once North Carolina and Miami meet face to face, it's going to be a very good back and forth game. And I think the schedule will get a little bit tougher for both of these teams as we get into the later part of the weeks of the college football season. But again, Miami, North Carolina, these are two teams that had bye weeks, so not really much to talk about these two teams. All right, that's my rankings from 16 through 20. Moving on, 11 through 15, we got Oklahoma at number 15. Very impressive win in their game against the Big 12. I think it was a better performance compared to, they played against Iowa State. I think it was a better performance, against Iowa State than it was Cincinnati. That was kind of like their first true road game of the season against Cincinnati, which wasn't really a tough place to play. But I think Oklahoma definitely deserves to be here in the top 15, especially after that performance. They haven't beat anybody that's in the top 25, but they'll get their opportunity this weekend when they go up against their rival Texas. That is going to be a big-time game in the Big 12. And Tennessee here at number 14. It was a okay performance against South Carolina. They scored 40-plus points in this game. Joe Milton made a couple mistakes, but other than that, he kind of picked it up right there in the second half. Tennessee now looks like they're going to lose Brew McCoy for the rest of the year. That's definitely a huge loss here for this Tennessee team. Brew McCoy is one of the top wide receivers for them in the country, and also on that Tennessee football team. I think it's likely he's going to be out for the rest of the year, so that's the bad news for Tennessee. But Tennessee's schedule really doesn't get any easier. They still have to play Alabama. They still have to play Georgia. They also still have to play Texas A&M coming up as well. So Tennessee, their schedule really is going to be tough. They also have to play Kentucky as well. So Tennessee, I think, has the toughest schedule for the rest of the way. So Tennessee here at number 14. Notre Dame at number 13. Very good bounce back win against Duke. I mean, that was kind of like a big win for them because I know Duke was not a conference game or anything like that, and Duke is not a Duke's game against Notre Dame was not a conference game either. But Notre Dame, I think that game was a little bit sluggish for them. Defensively, like I said, Duke's been really good all year on the defensive side of the football, but Notre Dame, they bounced back after a win against Ohio State. If they would have lost this game, I think Notre Dame would have been out of my top 25. And likely their playoff hopes would have been over. So Notre Dame here at number 13. Bounce back win against Duke over the weekend. Ole Miss at number 12. Big time win against LSU. I think the reason why you're probably wondering is why is Ole Miss ahead of Notre Dame? Well, it's because Ole Miss has now a top 25 win. Notre Dame doesn't have a top 25 win. Tennessee doesn't have a top 25 win. And also Oklahoma doesn't have a top 25 win either. So Ole Miss, I got to give them credit here and put them up here at number 12. I didn't really, I didn't really knock them off that much when they lost to Alabama a couple weeks ago. Like, I didn't, penalize them that much. But, Ole Miss here at number 12, got to give them some credit. The offense looked really good. Defense still has some work. If their defense can, get it going, Ole Miss might win out and make it, maybe to the college football playoff, maybe also the SEC championship, which I don't think that's going to happen. But, Ole Miss, you never know. They could probably do that. Alabama here at number 11. Alabama's ahead of Ole Miss because they beat them in the head-to-head. Very impressed with Alabama's performance against Mississippi State on the road. I think Alabama is really good on offense with Jalen Monroe at quarterback. I think a lot of Alabama fans would agree that he's the right guy for this Alabama team. He may be inconsistent at times, but I think Alabama's going to have a lot of, high expectations for him for the rest of the way. And if Alabama can use Jalen Monroe's legs as well, if they can give him plenty of room to run the football, Alabama might win out and go 11-1 if they get to the SEC championship and then win that game. They could go to the college football playoff. But Alabama here at number 11 for me at 4-1. These are my rankings from 11 through 15. All right, let's go 6 through 10 now. I got Washington State here at number 10 at 4-0. They had a bye week this past weekend. Washington State's got a top 25 win against Wisconsin. That's the reason why they're ahead of Alabama. Oregon at number 9. This team is undefeated at 5-0. Very impressive performance on the road at Stanford. Washington at number 8, surviving that close game against Arizona, the team that beat them last year. That was a really close game. That was a very close game, very close scare. And that was also, I think, Washington's first true road game of the season. If I'm not really mistaken, or maybe it's against Michigan State, which Michigan State did not put up a challenge against Washington in everything. So Washington here at number 8, been very impressed with them in the first 5 weeks of the season. USC at number 7, surviving a really close game against Colorado. Colorado gave them a fight there at the last few minutes of the game. Again, USC's defense, it goes back to their defense. Can this USC defense get going? Are they going to get better down the stretch, or is it going to be really chaotic down the rest of the way? We're going to find out if USC's defense is going to get better once they get into tougher Pac-12 play. But I think USC is going to get better. I think they're still one of the top offenses in the country. But again, if they can get that defense going, USC could be a very dangerous team. And you look at this top 10. I have USC, Washington, Oregon, Washington State. I have 4 Pac-12 teams here in the top 10, which is really crazy. And that's really crazy here for my top 25. The Pac-12, I think, has been the best conference this year. Penn State at number 6. Slow start to the first half against, Northwestern, one of the worst teams in the Big Ten, which they did beat Minnesota a couple weeks ago. But Penn State did pull away in the second half. Been very impressed with them. I think they could really challenge Michigan and Ohio State still. This team is still undefeated at 5-0. And these are my rankings from 6 through 10. All right, let's go to the top 5 now. No change here to my top 5. I got Ohio State. They had a bye week this weekend. Still got that win over Notre Dame. That was a very impressive win for them. I got Texas at number 4 still. Very impressive win against Kansas. I think the reason why they won big is because Jalen Daniels went down with an injury. That's the reason why I think Texas pulled away from the Jayhawks. And then Florida State here at number 3. They had a bye week this past weekend. Not really much to talk about them. Michigan, they finally found their offense. Same thing with Ohio State. Remember we said that Ohio State's offense was not really good enough in the first 2 weeks of the year? But then Ohio State found their offense against Western Kentucky a couple weeks ago. Now Michigan found their offense against Nebraska. And, Nebraska did not put up any fight in that game. Michigan came out, running the football pretty well. And that was kind of enough for me, to think that Michigan is definitely back. They're definitely back to where they need to be on the offensive side of the football. With Jim Harbaugh back, I think it's really good for them. He was suspended for those first 3 games of the year. And, once he got back, it wasn't really impressive against the Rutgers, but definitely more better against Nebraska, especially playing on the road as well. I thought that game was going to be really kind of a tough one for Michigan. But again, it goes back to the offense. The offense ran the football pretty well. And this Michigan team could be very dangerous once they got that offense going. Now they seem to have found their offense. Now Michigan and Ohio State is going to be a very close one to call once these two teams play when we get into the end of the season. And then I got Georgia here still at number 1. I know their performance wasn't great against Auburn, but I'm still going to pick Georgia here as my number 1 seed. it's going to be very kind of hard to tell where this Georgia team is going to be at for the rest of the year after that kind of performance against Auburn. But it was still a solid win, on the road at Jordan-Hare Stadium, one of the toughest places to play. And I knew Auburn would put up a really good fight in that game against Georgia, but it wasn't enough. So I got Georgia here at number 1, still the top team in the country. I tell you what, Michigan definitely looked more better than Georgia. Texas looked more better as well than Georgia. But it's kind of hard to rank these teams. I know Texas has a win against Alabama, but, Michigan and Georgia, they're just, really hard teams, to bet against. So Georgia and Michigan here. Again, no changes to my top 5 here. These things could change, though, as we get into the rest of the weeks. I mean, based off of what we saw in Week 5, we saw definitely a lot of upsets. So things could really change once we get into the rest of the college football season. But these are my top 25 rankings for the college football season, my top 25 rankings heading into Week 6 of the 2023 college football season. Let me guys know what you think about this top 25 rankings. Give me your top 25 down in the comments below, and we'll see what happens in week number 6 this upcoming weekend. And we got a bunch of videos coming out this week as well, and stay tuned here for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports channel.